their estimate, not a bid, because we can't be sure what KDOT would do or what they're thinking, but their estimate to completely redo the existing bypass, so that it's much safer, would be about 142 million. So, around a third of the KDOT estimate to build a new bypass. You notice the yellow signs at the ends of the bypass, those that say safety corridor, that's an indication, if you look it up, that we have an unusually high number of accidents on our current bypass, and safety is an issue. We know that, and we don't want that to be left behind. We don't think minor improvements are enough. We think that it needs to be greatly improved and made safer, and this would help do that. We're afraid if they don't do that, if they do a western or an eastern or something else, that wouldn't be made as safe as could be. Again, number three, I mentioned the properties. Also among the property thing of 800 acres, 250 to 300 dwellings, KDOT, there's a sheet in there that shows you that, already has enough right-of-way along the whole bypass to make it a 4-lane, to make it a divided 4-lane. So we think that's an important part of it.
Dan, I hate to interrupt you. I can't
Yep.
see the clock, but I think you're over your 3 minutes, so.
Okay.
Are we gonna be able to ask Dan some questions?
At the end of the meeting.
Okay, so Dan, can you stick around, maybe take some questions that'd be in the non-reporting
Depending on
requests?
time, you bet.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Carol Hemmerbacher, and I just received some news that has just broke my heart, that we are going to have abortions in the city of Pittsburgh. And I could not believe what I heard.
That is not true. I'm sorry, I don't mean to stop you, but that is not a true statement. I don't know where you heard it, but there's no entity that can do that, will do that.
So Planned Parenthood is not coming?
It was in the paper.
It's been all over the news and
There,
stuff.
there was a release today.
My heart is just broken. Just to think, it just breaks my heart, and I just had to share that. I had to say, I have been just feeling so upset to think that we would do this. And I just wanted to share this with you. I wanted to share with you my heartbreak, that I know that there's got to be better answers. And so I just had to tell you that. And
I do
God
have to
bless
ask
you all.
us, we heard, that's coming. But Don, you have information we don't have, that it's
No,
not true? You said it wasn't, so.
Well, then I misspoke. I don't know if Planned Parenthood is actually coming, and we don't know that they will, that they automatically do abortions. So I can just tell you that the entities that are currently in our community do not do
I think they have a
abortions.
broad plan
Not
of what they want to
currently
do.
in
Right.
it, but coming.
But it just breaks my heart. And even to change a child, these are things that we as parents and citizens, that we really need to reconsider. God bless us all.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Carol. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close public input. Moving on to the consent agenda, I believe Commissioner Munsell would like to pull off item B as in boy, E, and F. Anyone else have anything to pull off?
Just F.
Just F? All right. With that in mind, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items A, C, D, and G.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call vote?
Brooks?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
McNeil?
Yes.
Munsell?
Yes.
Sigley?
Yes.
All right, item B, approval of the request submitted by Deborah Brock to allow the sublease of a hangar owned by KW Brock Directories Incorporated located at the Atkinson Municipal Airport to Dale Oglesby for a 2-year term, and authorize the mayor to sign the lease agreement on behalf of the city.
I just have a question. I see here that the sublease, the north third of their hangar to Air Meds for storage of a helicopter. What does that mean? Is it a Life Flight helicopter? So we're gonna have a Life Flight helicopter back in town?
That's the business they're in.
Okay.
So, but Dale is separate from that.
There you go, Bill knows about it.
So the hangar in question is Ken's first hangar that they built. It's just got one door. It's over on the east side of the airport from our terminal. And Dell has leased that for 2 years already, and they're just wanting to update the lease one more time. So the Air Methods is something different.
But my question was for a life flight helicopter?
No,
It's
not at this time.
Okay.
So this is just an extension of an existing lease?
Correct,
Nothing new?
nothing new.
All right, I have no further questions. If no one else has, I move to approve.
For a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those, is that a roll call? Help me out.
Whichever you prefer.
Roll call for item B?
Brooks?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
McNeil?
Yes.
Munson?
Yes.
Sigley?
Yes.
All right, item E, approval of staff recommendation to remove 2 existing HVAC units located in the IT data center located at 201 North Pine and replace them with 2 new 3.5-ton split heat pump units and 2 new indoor ceiling mount units for a not to exceed amount of $34,988.32 and authorize the mayor to sign the necessary documents on behalf of the city. Good evening, Jeff.
Yes, this is just to replace the two units that we've got in there. One's over 15 years old, the other's 12. They're starting to show signs of imminent failure. It's starting to cost us more to maintain them than just to replace them.
And that's just to air condition the IT room?
Just the data center itself, yeah.
Okay.
What's the square footage of the data center?
Oh, it's 40 by 20, but we produce about 8 tons of heat continuously. So we've got 3 units in there right now. So we're replacing the 2 larger units that were 3 tons with a 3.5 ton.
And you think that's a fair price?
Well, it's the price. These are specialty units. There's only about 3 manufacturers that'll do them for data centers. They're a little different than other air conditioners. They have to control humidity by pulling out the heat in a unique method. And this is the solution that we selected here.
Did we put it up for bid?
No, these are from Train. We use Train. We're under contract with Train out of Wichita, and these are the only ones that they'll service in this building. So we're under a service contract in this building with Train already. But we have priced other units to see, and they were considerably higher.
So Crane provides the air conditioning for the whole building,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, they maintain all of the rooftop units and everything for this building.
I have no further questions. If there's none, I move to approve.
Second?
Thank you, Commissioner.
Do I have a second?
Yes.
Roll call vote?
Brooks?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
McNeil?
Yes.
Munson?
Yes.
Sigley?
Yes.
All right, last item, item F, approval of staff recommendation to submit an Emergency Solutions Grant, ESG, application to the Kansas Housing Resources Corporation, the KHRC, in the amount of $359,756.44 for homeless services, including prevention, rapid rehousing, and day shelter services, and authorize the mayor to sign the appropriate documents on behalf of the city. Good evening.
Sorry. This is a city grant, but Community Health is an agency under that, so I'll be recusing myself from voting.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, how can I answer any questions for you?
Well, the question I had is this a yearly grant you apply for every year?
Yes, we apply for this grant every single year.
And is it the same amount?
No, the amount varies based on what we apply for each year.
But how much of that grant do you get?
Last year, for an example, we applied for $415,668 and we were awarded $97,000. So we asked for the moon and we get what we can.
Well, that's why I asked that question, because people are gonna see that amount, but it's not the actual
No.
money that you receive.
No, that is not what we will,
All right.
more than likely not what we will receive.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
This has nothing to do with a cold weather shelter.
Correct. So an agency could apply for this, but we are not applying for that this year. We are strictly applying for rapid rehousing programs, homeless prevention, day shelter, and then new this year is outreach, street outreach.
When will you know?
Excuse
What
me.
is outreach?
So street outreach is community health workers, if funded, would go out to meet these individuals that are homeless on the streets and connect them with services. So you're reaching out to them on the street versus them coming to us.
Good idea.
And then knowing we would hope to, the grant starts July 1st, so we would probably know hopefully by June. Sometimes it's been August, so.
So do the other entities that are around Pittsburgh, do they go out into the community also? Or do they expect the people to come to them? Or do you know?
As far as I know, street outreach, nobody else does. So typically it's waiting for the individuals to come to you.
It's a pretty quick turnaround. Is it pretty common for this grant to be released this time of year?
Yes, yeah,
Good job on getting the necessary paperwork turned around.
thank you.
Hope you get more than less.
Me too, me too. Thank you.
Have a motion?
I make a motion.
Second.
to approve.
Been moved and seconded. A roll call vote?
Brooks?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
Mansell?
Yes.
Seeley?
Yes.
Moving into special presentation. Item A, Economic Development Quarterly Report. Director of Economic Development Blake Benson. And Pittsburgh State University Strategy Officer Sean Nacarata will present the quarterly economic development report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission. Sean and I, Dr. Nacarado, pardon me, and I are here to provide an economic development update that also kind of serves as our year in review, given that you'll be considering our contracts next on the agenda. And obviously, both Pitt State and the Chamber both greatly appreciate being a part of the city economic development team. It's an incredible working relationship. It's something that other communities around the state are looking to emulate, and we'll tell you some of the reasons why that is. But before we get into individual projects, when we stand before you, we always look at some numbers that are indicative of a community's economic health. The unemployment rate is something that gets a lot of attention. You'll see that it's still at historically low levels. It's up a little bit early this year. But that's hopefully good news for our HR directors because it means that they're able to find the employees that they need in order to power their businesses. The average median wage, that's also going in the right direction. You'll recall back in 21 to 2022, there was a pretty significant jump in our average median wage here in the county that continued to climb in 2023. And 2024 numbers will be out on July 1st. To kind of put that in perspective, you'll remember it was just over 10 years ago when USA Today, actually about 12 years ago, when USA Today ranked all of the states and their poorest county in each state. And unfortunately, Crawford County in 2012 was the lowest state. We're still not where we want to be, but we have leapfrogged 19 counties. And so probably even more encouraging than that is we're within striking distance of another 10 or so counties. So we feel like with the economic momentum that we have, that we'll continue to make up ground and get close to making it to the middle third of the state. But again, a lot of work to do. But I think it's always good to celebrate your successes as a community as they come along. Appreciate, and I also should have said, appreciate Marissa Poppy on Sean's team who really dressed up our presentation. This is a pie chart that you've seen often. Darren is the one that started this about 10 years or so ago and really helps us track the individual projects, but then also the overall numbers. You can see there that just in the last 11 years as a community, we've recorded almost $600 million in economic development projects. And as notable as that is, it's the fact that if you look over at that pie chart, look how diverse it is. So just like with your retirement portfolio, it's always good to make sure your investments are diverse. There are other communities even here in the state that are very closely tied to one economic sector, and when that sector goes down, then it really drags your entire economy with it. But here, I think that's one of the reasons that Pittsburgh is able to kind of weather the economic storms. These are some numbers, and Sean, I don't mean to hog the time here, so jump in, sure. So these, you'll recall, and we'll be bringing to you in June, the city partners with the economic research team at Pitt State, Dr. Michael Davidson, who's a whiz in finding these kinds of numbers. But you'll see the growth in middle-income households over the last 8 years basically far outpaces the state and the country. Job growth as well is ahead of state and US numbers as well. And then obviously population growth, which affects everybody. We're headed in the right direction at about a 1.5% clip in 2023. So now we'll get to some specific projects and turn it over to Sean here.
Thanks, Blake, and hello, everyone. Happy to be here and be back. It's been a while since I've been here. I'm happy to report some of the impacts that we've had. I think one of the things that you'll see as you look at all of this is that our unique Pittsburgh model for economic development, there's a reason why there's a lot of other places that want and wish they had what we have here with that. The collaboration with the city and the chamber and the university is a model for the country. You see here some of the impacts with regard to small business support. From our team, we've also in the midst of a reorganization at the institution, creating a division for focused on economic development, community engagement, and research, and uniting all those things. Here you see over the past, or in 2023, we had almost 75 unique clients, nearly 300 hours in client hours. This is just for Crawford County. $350,000 in capital infusion, and 11 new businesses started with the support and help of our team at Block 22 at the Foundry. In Q1, you see we're off to a great start for this year. If it continues, we will surpass last year's totals. Very pleased with that. And then if we look at the entire 11 county region that we work and serve with our work out of the Foundry, you see 400 unique clients, almost 1,600 client hours, $131 million in capital investment, and 31 new business starts in the 12 months of 2023.
And I'll also mention real quickly, the SBDC is extremely helpful as we work with people who are applying for incentives from the city. Sometimes they go straight to us and they request incentives, and it's a good idea, but the idea needs to be fleshed out a little bit. And Dacia and Amy and their team do an incredible job of just helping make their business plan stronger, make sure they've accounted for everything, and really helps them and helps us in the long run. So really appreciative of that.
Very much. The work of this unit within our division is very much an example of where the collaboration partnership with the chamber is so essential because of how much we get to work together on this to advance the community. We've had in 2023 and into 2024, we've had significant growth and investment, particularly when we look at our research and economic development activities. Our National Institute for Materials Advancement added over $500,000 in new equipment, state of the art. It's now rivaled by almost no one else within a 500-mile radius as to the equipment that we have there. We have 6 postdocs and 5 more scientist hires that we're getting ready to do. Over 50 student researchers, graduate student researchers were at the Tyler Research Center this past year. That's substantial growth over the last few years. We were about 3 years ago at around, I think we may have had 5 graduate students there. We've now grown that to nearly 60. And a lot of that having to do with the fact that Dr. Ram Gupta, who we've spoken about before, he's now serving as Associate Vice President in our division for research advancement, top 2% scientists in the world. We actually have just hired our second and third top 2% scientists in the world. One is already here, has moved here from India. He and Ram have collaborated in the past. And then we're about to onboard a third top 2% scientist in the world, so in material science and polymers. And so these numbers will hopefully just be continuing up. In addition, we were able to secure $40 million, in partnership with the KBI, $40 million in investment for a Southeast Kansas Regional Crime Center and Laboratory, as well as $10 million and $2 million for reading locally, and $10 million statewide to support the Kansas Blueprint for Literacy. The Kansas Blueprint for Literacy is focused on ensuring that every child in this state is a competent reader when they graduate high school. Right now, that's only about 60% of our high school students. And so this is an embrace of the science of reading, and we will be working throughout the state to help advance through professional development to retrain teachers in the science of reading, as well as producing improving our pre-service education to ensure that they understand the science of reading. We also were able to secure $5 million for STEM ecosystem and science lab upgrades. Many of you who have been in Johnson County in particular, I'll just point out those science labs there at their high schools are way better than we have at our university. That's not going to be where we need to be if we're building what I think you all hopefully can see we're building here with science and our STEM focus. That $5 million we're going to be able to leverage at the university to pull down some deferred maintenance dollars, so we'll be able to grow that. We also were able to secure $4 million in new annual funding focused in emerging technology and STEM and STREAM education and research and outreach. as well as $500,000 to launch a new Center for Graphene, which is focused on semiconductor. It's a semiconductor material, electroactive material. We believe that through the support and help of Congressman LaTurner, that we're going to be able to match that with $3 million from the federal government this next year. So we will launch a new Center for Graphene Research, which will actually be cutting-edge materials research right here in Pittsburg, Kansas. As I mentioned, we're launching in the midst of and have launched the new division. We also are working, as we look forward, on a partnership with to develop the first 2 university institute in Kansas, which would be on cybersecurity. If Congressman LaTurner is successful, we'll receive $6 million this year for that to launch for Southeast Kansas a cybersecurity institute, which is a great timing with the KBI's partnership. The Center for Graphene that I just mentioned, a continuation for our funding and commercialization, which has been about $1 million a year from the federal government. We also are seeking, through the help of Senator Moran, about $5 million in equipment for the prove-out facility, which we will be, we're already in design right now for the prove-out facility. And then also I'll mention that we are right now a couple of weeks away, hopefully, from hearing from the Kansas Department of Commerce on a submission under their Forge grant program, which would allow for us to launch a new foundry network for the entire region where we can take the front door of the university all throughout Southeast Kansas. And so we're very excited about the prospect of that. I wanted to mention to you, because I don't know that I've had an opportunity, I don't know if anyone's had an opportunity to share this with you. We had Dr. Davidson do an impact study on the economic impact of Block 22. I wanted to bring this up to you all as a way to help confirm your investment in our downtown and the work that we're doing. Dr. Davidson's research has shown that because of Block 22, there are 35 businesses that would not exist in Pittsburgh but for that. 516 jobs have been created in this community because of Block 22 investment. $83.2 million that's every 2 years in community gross domestic product impact, and $1.5 million in local tax revenue. So the 10% plus or so that was invested by the city of Pittsburgh, I hope you all will agree, is producing significant return on investment. The state of Kansas is also pleased that $2.5 million in additional state annual tax revenue is occurring as a result of the investment in downtown in Block 22, which I think we can all assume is only going to grow with our continued investment and expansion downtown.
One of the biggest projects, expansion projects, over the last year actually just began about 2 months ago with Pitt Plastics. They're adding a 200,000 square foot addition to their Pittsburgh facility. They've asked us not to share the value of that just yet, but it is significant, and especially I think most of us remember back when that was locally owned, by Gene Bicknell, and anytime a local company like that sells, there's a little bit of, nervousness about, long-term commitment to this community. So the fact that Ennoplast is investing that much in our community and that large of a facility shows that they plan to be in Pittsburgh for a long time. So we will most likely, they're not going to request any money from the city as far as an economic development incentive package, but could very likely come request a property tax abatement, which we have done with some of our other projects toward the end of this year. But obviously great news that Pitt Plastics is continuing to grow in Pittsburgh. Another one is Heritage Tractor. As part of this growth project, Heritage Tractor actually requested to be annexed into the city of Pittsburgh. So even though they've been in their location since the 60s, they're one of Pittsburgh's newest businesses. This is a 30,000 square foot addition. It's a roughly $7 million investment by Heritage Tractor. You approved an industrial revenue bond about a year or so ago that not only provides immediate sales tax relief on the construction materials, but then you'll also be asked to consider a property tax exemption a little bit later this year for a Heritage Tractor. But obviously great to see a long-time business in our community request to be a part of the city of Pittsburgh and to continue to grow and invest. Monte Industrial Park. Obviously, the city manager has been a huge part of this. Pittsburgh's newest industrial park, 200 acres, just north of the Northeast Industrial Park. Watco has located a transload facility in there, which is significant because it allows companies to rail in product and then offload it to trucks. And this is far enough along now that we've begun submitting projects for the Monte Park. As the Kansas Department of Commerce is talking to companies that are looking for new locations, we're now able to submit the Monte Park. So really excited about what the future holds for that. And then, as you'll recall, about a month or so ago, we brought to you a first right of refusal, some property in the Airport Industrial Park. We continue to work on two simultaneous projects that are interested in the Airport Industrial Park as well, and look forward to sharing more information about that very soon. Knowing that the labor market is tight, the chamber joined with the city and Kansas Works and a number of organizations for a job fair on April the 30th. Appreciate the Morning Sun providing this picture. Anytime that we can get our businesses in front of potential employees, that's a good thing. So we were proud to be a part of that. And we've also started an HR roundtable series for our local HR directors. Kim Vogel and Katie Hopp are usually able to attend those. It's not only a chance for local HR directors to visit with each other about what's working, but to also just make sure that there's some consistency with our different companies and how they're handling things. Really, this came from the pandemic, because you'll recall when the pandemic came, HR directors were really on the front lines, and they were kind of figuring things out on the fly. So we figured out that it was probably a good idea to get this group together on a regular basis, and they meet for lunch at the chamber every other month. Back to you.
So this is some initial renderings we wanted to share. First, of course, with the Southeast Kansas KBI Regional Crime Center and Laboratory that I referenced earlier. Assuming that we're able to secure the dollars, an additional $15 million that Senator Moran is working on with us, the facility will end up being about a $50 to $55 million total cost. We have the $40 million from the state already secured from this last session. The KBI folks told us it took them 17 years to convince the legislature to invest at the Washburn facility. We got it done in a year with them. So I'm pretty proud of that and what that investment's going to mean for the safety and security and educational and research opportunities for our institution. This again is initial renderings, but gives you a sense as to how we are growing in our research park master plan. I hopefully will have an opportunity to be back to talk as we are able to release the drawings of the new prove-out facility. We are getting very close on that. Excited that's going to be about a $12 million facility. We have all but $1.5 million or so already secured, either in hand or pledged. The planned KBI facility you see there as well, and then the other two facilities are somewhat demonstrative of where we could go in the future, and because we'll have that extra space to grow. No guarantee it'll actually be two buildings, it could be one, it could be three, but that gives you a sense of how we're going to utilize all of that to advance research and economic development here. Shoot, I just messed it up.
So
there we go.
These are the projects that came before the EDAC and eventually the City Commission in 2023. 2022 was a banner year. It was hard to top that, especially with the FedEx project, but still feel like we did well. We brought to you over $14 million in economic development projects in 2023. You'll see there that the revolving loan fund, which is typically the source of our economic development incentives, was $737, which represents about 5% of that investment. So I think most people in investment would be willing to have that kind of return. So thank you to the City Commission, thank you to the City Manager and leadership for being proactive, and that's obviously a good return on the city's funds. So I believe that is it, and obviously we would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I got a few for you, Blake. I was noticing the scope of work here, retaining businesses, that you meet with the local employers once a month. That's manufacturing businesses, or do you make it around the year talking to every business?
Try to focus on as many different kinds of businesses as possible. With those specific meetings, they're typically with manufacturers, because you don't often just bump into a manufacturer. With retail, it's a little easier because you can walk in and visit kind of casually. With a manufacturer, typically the public access is not necessarily there, so that's more of an intentional set a meeting, talk about potential growth opportunities. If there's any obstacle to growth, we're able to address those. And a number of the expansions that we've been able to bring to you, Commissioner, originate from those conversations that we have through that BRE program.
I'm glad you reach out to those manufacturers. but you referenced Dr. Davidson's report, and in that report, I think, was it 94% of our businesses inside the city are small businesses? that employ-
The national numbers are about 75%, which is still significant.
So you're reaching, my question is, how the employment, are they able to find, any of them manufacturing, small businesses, are they finding people that want to work for them?
It's getting better. As a good example, last holiday season was the first year in a few years that Miller's was able to find all of their seasonal workers. It had gotten to a point where when the unemployment rate was 2%, which was a all-time low for Pittsburgh, some of our businesses wouldn't run like holiday specials because they knew if they got the business that they couldn't fulfill the orders. That's too low of an unemployment rate. We feel like where we are right now in the mid-3s is healthy because it's still considered full employment, but it's not so low that it's impossible for businesses to find their employees.
How about our small businesses? Are they having issues finding employees?
From what we hear from most of our small businesses, with inflation, that's raised everybody's prices. It's obviously putting pressure on salaries, which, you saw there that salaries are up for most employees. Our businesses are trying to figure out how to stay competitive. I will say that the job market has typically made it more competitive for employees here, so that if they don't feel like they're being taken care of where they are, they have other options. But we know at the same time, it's got to be a balance because at the end of the day, it's the business owner that's got to figure out how to make all that cash flow.
And my final question is, I see here, future plans, what's the concerns? What are some of the concerns? And I'm going back to small business. What are their concerns?
Ooh, there are a lot of them, and obviously we have a small business owner here with us. I think obviously being competitive for employees is probably one of the bigger concerns, and it's not just salary, but things like childcare. We have a lot of people that aren't able to go into the workforce because they're staying home with kids, and even if they would like to work, they don't have anything to do with their kids. So I think the strides that the county has made in terms of expanding local childcare, I think that's certainly going to help. Housing is something else that, appreciate the city's efforts to increase housing, because I think some of Dr. Davidson's numbers have shown that a lot of times when Pittsburgh creates jobs, people come to Pittsburgh to take those jobs, but they end up living in another community because they couldn't find the house that they wanted. So that's a concern, but our small business owners, I really give it to them because they've got to be a jack of all trades. They're often not big enough to have an HR director, a finance director, a marketing director. They've got to do it all, but I would put our small business community up against anybody else's for what they do.
Now, as you mentioned, childcare, and what was our medium income at $17 an hour? And I know some of the childcare that's being constructed or talked about is a couple $100s a week. So how does people that's making, I know you don't have the answer, but can you afford to pay for childcare and work? And we need workers because our small business, all businesses do. But if we can't afford childcare at $800 to $1,000 a month, maybe you stay home with your kids. You know what I'm trying to say? How's that?
I understand.
How's that helping? The cost of everything and.
Yeah, it's a balance, and obviously, any childcare facility, they've got to cover their costs as well, and pay their folks, but then also remain competitive for customers. It's very similar to the challenges that our small business owners face. Yeah.
And Chuck, I think you brought up a good point that I want to touch on. One reason Blake was so attractive in this role is because when you talk about small businesses, what are they thinking, what are they feeling? He's also the chamber director. So we don't have to weigh on having a city employee over here trying to figure out what Blake already knows and does on a regular basis with his staff, which is cut ribbons, do expansions, hold events, and regularly speak to that group. So we are in touch with that smaller business because obviously, when it comes to job creation, we have that huge focus on industry. We're a custom manufacturing community, and that's a big push. But it's also very important that we have somebody that's in touch with, hey, how's the local coffee shop doing? How's the small business doing? And Blake's always done a great job with that.
That's good, that's good. No further questions? Anybody
Okay,
else?
all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. All right, consider the following. Item A, Pittsburgh Area Chamber of Commerce Economic Development Services Agreement. Consider approval of an economic development services agreement between the Pittsburgh Area Chamber of Commerce and the City of Pittsburgh, in which the Chamber will perform the services related to the location and retention of industrial, manufacturing, and retail businesses in the city for the period effective April 1, 2024, and concluding on March 31st, 2025.
Mayor and Commissioners, so you just heard the economic report. B and C are respectively the Chamber and the University renewing their existing contracts in the same amount for the same period, beginning of April to the end of March. I think the scope of services and everything was in your packets, but if you have any questions, I'm sure they'd be happy to get back up and I'll take a swing at anything. But I think we're doing well. We can always do better. Luckily, I think every year we do better. And as the university staff grows, you can see that small business development piece that's very important. And then even on the big scales, you've got the huge industries that continue to invest in the community. So I think we're very lucky.
Move to approve.
Second?
Been moved and seconded to approve item A. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Item B, Pittsburgh State University Business Development and Innovation Services Agreement. Consider approval of a business development and innovation services agreement between Pittsburgh State University, PSU, and the City of Pittsburgh, in which PSU will provide support to the city to effectively help create and attract new businesses, industries, and manufacturing concerns to the city, as well as more effectively promote the expansion and growth of existing businesses and industries already located in the city for the period effective April 1, 2024, and concluding on March 31st, 2025. Is there any discussion or questions on that?
I'd move to approve if there's no questions.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve item B. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item C, Item C, Community Health Center of Southeast Kansas, CHC SEK Expansion Project. Consider the recommendation of the Economic Development Advisory Committee, EDAC, to reimburse the Community Health Center of Southeast Kansas, CHC SEK, an amount equal to 10% of the total project value of the renovation of the property located at 924 North Broadway, with the city's portion not to exceed $92,000. Hello again, Blake.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. This is a project very consistent with others that we have brought to you for your consideration. The Community Health Center has the property at, as you mentioned, 924 North Broadway. They're looking to invest almost $1 million in a significant remodel of that. You can see here artist rendering of that. The facade will match the main campus at the Community Health Center, so it'll be a nice, attractive building. The new use will be a walk-in clinic. And I think it's important to point out that this is due in large part to the investments that you have helped support in downtown through Block 22 and the DVLP projects. There are more people downtown. There are more people living downtown. There are more people visiting downtown. And so this will be a great complement to that by providing health care to those that are downtown. Jason Wesco, president of the Community Health Center, is here tonight to answer any questions. But again, the use would be a walk-in clinic, also a specialty pharmacy, which Dr. Sigley's I'm sure familiar with, along with lab and x-ray services. And estimated completion time would be later this summer. The total investment is expected to be $924,000. So the EDAC considered a request from the CHC, and as you mentioned, Mr. Mayor, recommended 10% at the end of the project, with the city's investment not to exceed $92,000. With that, I or Jason would be happy to answer any
I
questions.
have some
you may.
questions.
Okay.
Let's get Jason up here.
Okay.
Good evening.
First of all, are you guys a tax-paying entity?
We are a not-for-profit corporation, 501c3.
So you pay no taxes?
We do
Okay.
not.
But you're going into business against tax people, correct? People who are paying taxes, right?
Sure.
Sure. And the specialty clinic, I'm not sure what a specialty clinic is.
Specialty pharmacy.
Yeah, right.
It's
To me, a specialty pharmacy is something that prepares like chemotherapy, other type of things.
They're very expensive medications that you have to have a special certification to dispense. We don't have any specialty pharmacies in southeast Kansas. So
Like, give me an example.
I can't give you an example of a medication offhand. Happy to send you that information. But there are medications that we can't currently get in our pharmacy that manufacturers will not make available to us.
And you get your medications at government cost, or the lowest cost, right?
Yes, it depends. We have both retail and 340B. So for our patients, we have the special access to programming, but we're to that pricing. But for any other patient, they can come to us just like any retail pharmacy. That is correct.
So you're gonna work like a retail pharmacy.
Yes, all of our pharmacies in the system are.
So you're gonna give out other than specialty drugs? I mean,
Yes.
you're gonna fill prescriptions from other than specialty drugs, so.
Yes,
right.
about 3% of our prescriptions are filled for patients that are not ours. 97% are CHCSEK patients.
But Jason, to clarify, will it only be specialty drugs at that location?
No, there will be both, because for the walk-in care, so there will be your basic walk-in care medications will be available there.
So again, you're competing with the pharmacies in town,
Yes.
and you're not paying taxes, they are.
No, much like Mercy and Ascension. They're also not-for-profit corporations.
I'm not talking Mercy and Ascension, I'm saying
Yes.
that you're competing with them, okay.
Yes,
All right, I just wanted to clarify that, because some people have asked me that question.
yes,
Well,
absolutely.
and just to also clarify is, patients are served regardless of their ability to pay.
That was what makes us fundamentally different than other healthcare systems. If people don't have resources and cannot pay for their medications or their treatment, they get care regardless. That's
They went
correct.
to hospitals, they want to receive care if they can't afford to pay?
No, they're seen,
In emergency rooms, EMTALA federal regulation requires them to be seen, but that could also come with a pretty significant bill.
So getting along, back on Doc's question you brought up, you're competing against local pharmacies that pay property tax and you don't. My question is, Community Health is buying land-bank properties with the possibility of building, I don't know, maybe single-family homes. Would they pay property tax on those single-family homes or not?
Well, our intention in building homes, we haven't built one yet, but our intention is to sell those, not to maintain them ourselves.
So
So
yeah,
then-
Chuck, when somebody bought that
Yeah.
house, they would pay property
Yes.
tax. I guess that was.
Right,
that was
right.
your question.
Yeah,
and you will pay taxes on all the materials and stuff like that before.
Correct.
Yeah.
The only way I think that you can not pay sales tax on construction materials is our IRB program, to my knowledge. I'm looking around the room, so, which usually means it's a multi-million-dollar investment, but we like to tax money, obviously,
yeah.
from the building materials.
So Jason, it might help to clarify, what's the percentage of poverty in our community?
Well, the percentage of our patients, I mean, we're still one of the highest poverty communities in Kansas. And the percentage of our patients who are low income or considered poor is well over 85%. So our target is people who don't have resources. We are open to anyone, but it's
But
basic.
you get paid by the federal government for seeing those patients, correct?
We receive federal grants. It's not as if the more uninsured patients we see, the more money we get. No, it's a grant. It's a flat amount of money.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's been flat for
Yes,
several years.
our total grant funding is about 15% of our budget.
So Commissioner McNay asked, what percent of the population is poor? And you answered, what percent of your patient population is poor? Was that the same question?
No, but.
Is 87% of our population in
No,
Pittsburgh is not
no,
poor?
that is not correct.
Yeah.
My
Let's be
my-
clear on that, please.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. My point was, our focus is a certain population in southeast Kansas, correct?
I will add, we pulled some numbers together. Downtown, by the end of 2025, there will be, in the last 5 years, 250 additional units for people to live downtown. So that is something I think it's important to bring up, and obviously there can be more than one person to a unit. So as that downtown population grows, and you see it in other communities, downtown grocery stores, downtown clinics, some things like that, do become more popular because of that comes with building up the downtown.
Jason, any idea what the hours or days of operation of this clinic would be?
We'll be open 7 to 7, 7 days a week. We're creating 23 new jobs. The average salary is $61,000, which is significantly higher than the family median income. So we believe we're creating good jobs and providing good benefits for people who are paying taxes and buying houses and doing all the things citizens do.
Blake, do you know, or maybe Darren, the EDAC, did they approve this unanimously? Or
Yes.
Correct. Thank you.
And
Any other-
again, I will recuse myself.
Okay.
I think me and Doc have an issue. It sounds like that you're in competition with other businesses that pay taxes, and it's kind of hard on those businesses.
Well, I realize that, but I also realize that we've got to move
Right,
forward
right,
with this.
right.
And I'm not objecting to your doing it. I just want to make the entity clear that you're a tax-free entity primarily, whereas other folks are paying taxes to pay you guys in the long run. It comes back around, as well as, pay for all the city work that's done here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, no,
People need to understand that.
agreed.
But hopefully it's also creating a healthy workforce.
If you're recusing yourself, are you allowed to?
Talk? Yes,
Yeah.
I am. I already asked that question to our attorney.
Any other discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second it. Been moved and seconded to approve item C. Let's call for a roll call vote on this one.
Brooks.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
Munsell.
Yes.
Sigley.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Item D, conditional use permit, 703 East 8th Street. Consider the recommendation of the Planning Commission Board of Zoning Appeals to grant the request submitted by Neil Latrick for conditional use permit to allow a church to be located at 703 East 8th with the stipulations that 1, a maximum of 25 persons in attendance at a time, and 2, a maximum of 8 vehicles on the premises at a time.
Good evening. This is a location, it's on the dead end of 8th Street. There was no one opposed, actually had neighbors in favor. Dexter's also here if you have any other questions, but the conditions set on that were, as you read, 25 persons in attendance, no more than that, and maximum of 8 vehicles, as some of the attendees don't drive anyway. So they did not think either one of those things would be an issue.
Is that a paved area or is that a gravelled area for parking?
I believe that is a gravelled area.
Okay. And these are all homeowners around the area?
Yes, and they were all notified, anyone within 200 feet of that location, to voice their opinion or concerns. No one did.
Any other questions? I'd entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve item D. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Item E, resolution number 1277, consider approval of resolution number 1277, authorizing the preparation and submittal of an application to the Kansas Housing Resources Corporation, KHRC, for the Kansas Housing Investor Tax Credit, the KHITC program. Hello again, Kevin.
Sure. All those acronyms for you. So this is a project located at 102 South Locust. I'll go to the next picture. That one might look a little more familiar for you. it will look better than that. But this development group is interested in applying for the KHITC or the tax credits. So all you're approving is a resolution for them to do so. This doesn't affect us in any other way other than it helps them get some tax credits for the project. They will be coming to us, and I will be coming to you for a moderate income housing grant application as well for this project.
Have a motion? For more discussion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve item E. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Item F, award of contract engineering and project management services. Consider staff recommendation to award the engineering and project management contract for the K-126 and Joplin, 4th and Joplin Street intersection project to Earl's Engineering and Inspection Incorporated of Pittsburgh, Kansas, based on the selection committee's recommendation. Hello, Matt.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This item, this is for 4th and Joplin. We went out for a request for qualifications on this project as required by KDOT as their contract documents. We'd have an executed contract with KDOT. This is where the cost share project, where there's, or a geometric C-clip project, where they're providing about $1.5 million for the $2 million project. They asked us to follow a selection criteria. We solicited, we open bid it, put it out there for everybody, and direct solicited all the engineers that we knew as well. We came back with 2 proposals, one from OWN and one from Earl's as well. We formed a 5-person selection committee and reviewed their proposals. We selected Earl's based on some qualification around other work with KDOT. So from this point forward, we're recommending award based on qualifications to Earl's Engineering. From that standpoint, KDOT will review the engineering hours with KDOT's review for finalizing contract price.
It's exciting.
Question? Motion?
So move.
Second? Anyone?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve item F. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Item G, thank you, Matt. Item G, Federal Aviation Administration FAA grant application. Consider staff recommendation to authorize city staff to sign and apply for an FAA grant to fund the design of taxiway improvements at the Atkinson Municipal Airport in the amount of $155,000, with the city's 10% local share to be $15,500. Good evening.
Mayor and Commissioners, we've been pretty successful over the years in getting federal money to support development of our airport. And this is really just another one of those success stories. We're able to we want to apply for a grant to do the next stage of work. We're about finishing up the very impressive apron work that's been done in front of the terminal building. If you guys haven't been out to the airport recently, it's a very, that apron area had been deteriorating over the years, and it is a thing of beauty now. So, a very, very large project. This is to work on some taxiway areas around, and this is just for the design of that taxiway area. But I thought maybe give you a little bit of a chance, give Brian a little bit of a chance to talk about what this project's all about.
Thank you, Jay. Mayor and Commissioners, my name is Brian Coombs, and I'm an engineer with Olson. And we would be proposed to do the design on this project. So there's really 3 components to the job here. If you're familiar with the airport, this section here that I'm highlighting with the mouse is what we refer to as the corporate taxiway. It serves some of our larger hangar on the aircraft that house based jets in the area for business use. So we would reconstruct that full section of pavement. It's deteriorating pretty rapidly. The city and the airport are having to perform patches just to keep the pavement in place. So replacement of that pavement in connection to the runway end will be a part of the improvement. Another piece is this piece of pavement here that serves a city-owned hangar will also be replaced, which will kind of finish and round out that improvement that we just made with the apron. And then the third component of the project would be providing a seal coat and filling the cracks on this, what we call connector taxiway between the 2 runways here. So a maintenance piece of the job as well to preserve the pavement that we have.
And the overall project cost when, for those, do you remember?
I have it.
It's a quiz.
I don't remember, that's why I'm asking.
Oh, but you're
That's a
tested.
good question, and didn't have it.
Brian, the material's all concrete, I assume. Is that what it is?
Presumably on the new construction will be concrete, yes. Actually, when we do the FAA design, we're required to do an analysis of the full life cycle cost of both asphalt and concrete. So not just upfront cost, but the FAA wants you to invest considering, you know, maintenance over a 20-year lifespan. So in our area, most of the time, concrete wins out that comparison. The pavement for the rehab is existing asphalt pavement.
So during construction, what's the plan to get around that they can't use?
It's a good question. So we'll be in communication with the hangar tenants to come up with options. There's not a lot of real good ones. It's not as easy as with City Street where you can, you know, build a little detour and work people over 12 feet beside it when you got a 50 or 60 foot wingspan that has to stay clear of construction traffic. There's not a lot of good ways to bypass that. So we'll work with Bill and the tenants, and it may be shifting them around to other facilities on the airport or even a temporary displacement. But we will plan to have some heavy engagement with the tenants and the users to.
Well in advance of any
Right,
construction.
right, yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted, or I think I'm the first one to interrupt you for Jay's question on the cost.
I put him on the
The
spot.
Yeah.
construction costs, so you have the cost of, so we're applying for a grant right now for the design costs. The construction costs, I don't want to throw out a number that's inaccurate, but
I'm sorry.
approximately, you know, based on our CIP, I want to say around 1.5 million would be the ultimate construction cost. So the way that this works, if you recall, would be similar to the apron project. FAA would fund the design phase this fiscal year. We would bid the project next spring, and then we would return to you to apply for the grant for the construction phase. So FAA grant process is a little different than a KDOT grant process, so we're working with them on an annual basis with our capital improvement program. So they acknowledge that this project's coming. They don't want to issue the grant until we have known bids in hand. So we will proceed with design all the way through bidding. We'll get bids in hand and then come back to you sometime, hopefully next April, May, with for approval to pursue the grant to cover 90% of the cost of that 1.5
That's
million.
what I was gonna ask you, so the city's cost would be 10% of this 1.5 million?
Yep, 10% of this, yes, 10% of both the
Yes.
design grant in front of you today, and then in the future, 10% of that 1.5 million construction cost as well.
There's an off chance we might be able to get some state funding to cover even that 10%. We will apply for that. There's a program they have available right now, but we're assuming it's gonna cost us 10%.
Yeah, that additional program is the state of the Build Kansas Fund, which we will pursue. So part of the funding for the construction and the funding for this comes from our additional bipartisan infrastructure legislation, airport funds. So those are proceeding for a period of 5 years. We're about right in the middle of that 5-year period now. So we're gonna portion of those funds are allocated towards this improvement.
Has the traffic been pretty static, or is it increasing?
It's pretty steady right now. The jet traffic is consistent. The single engine, small Cessna stuff is just pretty steady. It's not increasing there, but the jet traffic, we see more and more. With our longer runway that we've got, not only are we seeing some more traffic, there's larger aircraft that are coming in.
Well, thank you guys for working together to try to come up with these federal funds, the FAA funds, because it's definitely a help to fund a needed project, so appreciate it. Any questions? Anybody else? Motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Have a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve item G. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Last item, item H, consultant agreement. Olson, consider staff recommendations to enter into a consultant agreement with Olson in the amount of $137,500 for the design and bidding phase, services associated with the reconstruction of the corporate taxiway and city taxi lane and rehabilitation of the connector taxiway at the Atkinson Municipal Airport pending the FAA concurrence and successful receipt of the grant.
Yeah, what you approved, what you previously approved was for our application for the grant funds. And what we're asking you now is to approve a contract for the design work from Olson, right? So that they can complete the design so we can get the full amount of federal funding when that becomes available. So,
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve item H. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Non-agenda reports and requests.
Mayor, just real quick, before Bill steps away, it kind of goes without saying, but I'm gonna say it. Bill is the reason that people continue to stop at our airport and get I mean, overall, we just have a nice gas station out there for planes. I mean, but hopefully they also land and come into town and they do some shopping as well. But the reason they continue to stop is because we have competitively priced fuel, which Bill has told us that we have to keep it at a certain level. And because Bill gets out there and takes after their jets and their pilots and their customers and greets them on the tarmac and walks them in and does an excellent job, and he's not up here enough, so when he's up here, I'm gonna make sure that we acknowledge him, because he's pretty shy and he doesn't usually talk to me. So thanks, Bill, for all you do, and
Thanks,
he has a
Bill.
good team around him, but he's unbelievable.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Bill.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Non-agenda, right? We're good. Okay.
Non-agenda.
This is just an invitation for anyone listening and everyone here. Downtown Community Conversation, Thursday, May 30th, 5:30 to 7:30 PM. It'll be at Block 22, which is 402 North Broadway. This is just inviting the public in to an open house and provide them an opportunity to review and provide input on the downtown strategic plan, parking, development downtown and all that. So we'd really love to have everyone come and join us. Again, it's 5:30 to 7:30 on Thursday, May 30th. There's flyers at the back, and there's also information on social media. If you have any questions, you can reach out. That's it.
Thank you.
Just a reminder, tomorrow at 1 o'clock, Ribbon Cutting, Quincy Street, just east of Joplin.
Thank you.
1 o'clock?
1 o'clock. Rain or shine.
Rain or shine.
Rain or shine. Anyone else? Darren?
No.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and move out to Pittsburgh Positive, so we can go into executive session after that. Or ask for.
You gotta ask.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Dan.
Dan, if you want, you had some questions, I
Yes.
think. Sorry, and thank you for sticking around, Dan.
I have one question.
You bet.
Are there any businesses or homes gonna be impacted? Do you, I know it's in the future and you don't know.
No.
By this?
That's right. I don't know.
Okay.
Anything any of us do is a guess about what KDOT would do.
Sure.
From what I understand, there have been people suggest to us worried about J.C. Ballpark, et cetera, like that. And those things, golf course, et cetera, would not be affected. Probably Bose would, as we understand it. The new water treatment plant wouldn't be affected, but it would be right on the fence line. The water treatment plant of KDOT's right of way. So that would, I don't know how that would work. You know, they have so much right of way in there that they can shift things some, but I don't know how they would work there, Doctor. Our biggest concern about that is actually they're close to the city limits at Atkinson going north for a mile, where it's 4-lane, but it's not divided, and there are businesses and houses pretty close to it on both sides. And there are 2 or 3, I think, good ways for KDOT to deal with that, but we have no idea how they really would deal with that. You know, that they have right-of-way there similar to Broadway or the road all the way through Fort Scott and that kind of thing, but not the 250 feet that they have south of Atkinson a lot. Right.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Dan, I had some questions here on the businesses that we have in town and in the county. Have you spoken to them on, what their concerns would be?
We, of course, haven't engaged all of them, but we started compiling a list of businesses, some of them contacting us contacting some of them. About 140 businesses so far in the area, that's not just Pittsburgh. I would guess maybe half of those are Pittsburgh. Believe that the existing bypass is better than constructing a new western. Some of that's just practical. They look at that and they say, well, this makes a lot more sense because it needs improved anyway, or it costs a lot less. Some of it is that they think they'll be directly affected by that going farther away, the main way to drive, right?
You mentioned the cost that was estimated to be 142 million
By
Crossland. And what does that look like? What would, if we went the current bypass, and we naturally want to make it safer and more efficient, and also be mindful of the cost of taxpayers, so what are we talking about that might happen?
Again, that's a guess. I would say that the best guesses on that are, what Crossland did was look at that and say, well, we think they would have, let's say, 4 overpasses or whatever, and 5 bridges or whatever. That's just a guess. It's not necessarily what KDOT would do, but that's the kind of thing they've done for KDOT and other projects. I'm guessing they probably would do overpasses at 20th, at some kind of major thing at 4th Street, something at Quincy. Centennial's a whole different deal. There's really no reason to overpass that there. Probably things like that, I would guess. And they can be fairly simple, or with you know, getting on and going north is pretty easy. For instance, if you're coming from the city on 4th Street, if they did an overpass going out of town, if you're going west, then you would have to go up there and then turn left to get on, things like that.
But again, a lot of this is just what you said earlier.
Spitballing.
Again,
Conjecture, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Nobody,
KDOT, I
yeah,
don't think knows what they're gonna do
yeah.
based on
And
these upcoming meetings that they're gonna have, and, you know, in area communities and things. I think they're still trying to.
And strangely enough, that's exactly right. In these meetings, they're not talking about the western bypass. I don't know why that is. I don't know if they've given up on it. I don't know if they're trying to figure out what needs done with the middle one. But they're having these community meetings and all these stakeholder meetings. Some of you are involved in those. And what they do is lay out or put around the wall, just like they did years ago about this, of the existing bypass, and they'll say to people, what do you think about this? And they'll have 2 or 3 questions.
Well,
And,
20, I
people
think,
get
yeah,
into it.
20 years later, I think we're back at square one, and we're looking at, you know, all options again, so.
Yeah.
KDOT does things, KDOT's a group of engineers and planners, so they do things very linear. We talked to them last week. We've got a host of these meetings coming up with the community and stakeholders, and we had a chance to talk to them. We needed their help with something else, and I asked him, hey, what's going on? He said the main thing to consider is we are doing this in phases. Phase 2 will be whatever western bypass, central bypass, eastern bypass. He said phase 1 is only to discuss the shortcomings and the people's thoughts about the current bypass. He goes, now, we have trouble keeping the meetings about that because they immediately become, we don't want it here, we don't want it there, and it's gonna cost this and it's gonna cost that. But the focus, as of Friday from KDOT was, we're really trying to find out what are the limitations of the current bypass, so they can see if they can address them first, and then obviously, if they don't think they can, or whatever the cost is, it would probably lead to the phase 2, which is let's talk about an alternate bypass. But that's my answer that I got from them as of Friday, was the focus of these meetings coming up is to talk about phase 1, which is specifically about the current bypass and what people think about it. And that's why they're having safety, the transportation group is one stakeholders group, the highway patrol, the police, the fire. What do they think of getting around on it? They have the city government, obviously, we've been invited, so we'll go in and talk about our experiences, and then they have businesses and everybody else. But I think that was the focus, because I asked them the same question. I'm like, what are you, I mean, are we just doing this again? Didn't we do this last year? And they're like, phase one is to talk about the existing bypass and what, if any, limitations there are on it, what they could be doing.
But I think it's good to have these talking points, Dan,
Yeah.
so thank you.
So
I got a
I
couple more
have,
questions.
I have questions.
Go ahead.
So help us understand this Highway 69 Strategic Alliance. Who, is it a membership? What's your?
Well,
Because you're presenting data here.
right.
So
No,
what?
it's the core group of it is 4 or 5 people. And then, when we have occasional, which has been 2 so far, meetings, anybody who's interested in this can attend that. Our last one was 2 or 3 weeks ago on Tuesday night, and we had about 130 there. Everybody that was there, that was vocal, the people aren't always vocal, they were in support of upgrading, and improving the existing bypass.
Because that's your position. That's the Alliance's
Well,
position.
they're not in favor of it because that's our position.
No, but I'm
They
asking you.
attend for that reason.
I'm
yeah.
asking you, that is the Alliance's
Right,
position.
right,
Okay.
right. And I think I mentioned this, I may not have, but last year came so suddenly, a lot of people that were directly affected by it were the ones that jumped up and, I don't want to go through my land, my house, whatever. This year, we've changed to not so much talking about that or even against that as saying, we think this is the best thing for our communities, to stay close to that.
Okay,
Dan?
thank you.
How many people from ARMA were there, elected officials? Were there people from ARMA at that meeting?
I know of one for sure,
Were there elected officials?
but I don't know all the people from.
Were there from Frontenac at that meeting?
Yes, several,
Gerard,
yes,
Crawford County,
yes.
Cherokee
2 of the
County.
3 commissioners,
Cherokee County.
yes.
So everybody wants to have a seat at the table and discuss it. And I wish we could do that as a commission also, instead of the way we voted the last time, because it takes all of us working together. And I sure would like to see us do that.
Do what specifically? Host a town hall or talk
I didn't-
about? No, talk
We
about.
all need to be, you need to be a part of it, be at the table with the rest of the elected officials who 20-some years ago all acted as one.
I think I know where you're coming from, Cheryl, and I was gonna ask you, Dan. This Highway 69 Alliance is fairly new. I don't know how long
Yes.
you've been existing.
A month or 2.
But Highway 69 Association has been in existence for several years. Have you sat down, the 2 groups, and talked about what might be the best for everyone? And send the message to KDOT that we're all on board with a plan to improve the existing bypass, like Darren said, answer questions, and make it safer. So have you sat down and?
Well, isn't that what these meetings are for?
Well,
Yeah,
I'm just,
with KDOT?
well, no.
And anybody can come to them, so.
So have you, getting back to my question, has Highway 69 Association came to these meetings and had discussions about getting together at one voice and let KDOT know where the overwhelming majority of all the cities that's affected, what their thoughts are?
Yes and no. We've been together at a meeting, for instance, that KDOT spoke at but didn't allow any of us to have input on. I've met with Blake, I've talked to Kevin, and things. I don't feel like we're necessarily opposed to each other. I think we both want what's best for the communities along Highway 69. From talking to Blake and Kevin, I think they would like, and I'm using their names because they're part of the Highway 69 Association. I think they would say that whatever KDOT thinks is best, that's what they're for. But we think, for a variety of reasons, that what's right here is the best one to do. So we're a little more, I think, committed to one way
To be
than
fair
they
though, Dan,
are.
you have a personal interest in it as well though, right? I mean, if it were to go to the west bypass, I mean, to be fair, I just think that, you know, that's.
Well, I don't really. It'll be in the next mile section from me. I do have a lot of neighbors that would be affected, yeah. But, and like I say, that, I hope we've changed in that and maybe matured a little bit, yeah.
Dan, do you have a political agenda? Yes or no?
I have no political agenda,
No, there's your answer.
So,
no.
So,
And the cool thing about this is, this is completely apolitical. There are people that are conservative or liberal or whatever on both sides of this. It has nothing to do with that, yeah. It has to do with what people think is best for the communities involved, in your case particularly Pittsburgh. And if I had to boil that down to one thing, do you think that building a western bypass, because let's be honest, in this room, I don't think any of us care if people can go around Pittsburgh from Kansas City or Tulsa or whatever faster. I don't think we care about that. And that's not even true. There's a study in there that will show you that. But it comes down to, do you think that building a western bypass out there will help Pittsburgh grow? Or do you think it would be better for Pittsburgh if a bigger, better, safer road is kept closer to our businesses, our eating establishments and all that kind of thing? I think that's what comes down to.
Well, the good news is.
It should be an or, it should be both.
Yeah.
We should have access, and we want to utilize it to grow Pittsburgh.
So the good news is KDOT is, like I said before, they're starting over at square one. So, I mean, there's nothing gonna be decided, you know, in the next 6 months or 6 weeks or anything else.
Doubt
So-
that.
Here's what's going on. So we have an agenda that we follow at these meetings. And the reason we have that agenda is so we don't get up here and discuss one side of any issue.
Right.
So my phone is already going to blow up tomorrow from the people that live in Pittsburgh that have been calling for 3 weeks about these meetings that are coming up with KDOT, where it's going to be an opportunity for people to talk about which road, and I completely respect Dan, and Dan's got his opinion on where it should be and why it should be. This is not political. I think he's accurate. I think it's personal. I think people own property and they have interests and they like to see it somewhere or the other. We haven't built a road in the 12 years I've been here that didn't have somebody that didn't want it where it was going or wanted it somewhere else. So I think we should be careful, and if we want to have a town hall or we want to do something and we want to invite everybody and put it on the agenda and tell people, but I just do not take calls for 2 weeks about why we spent 45 minutes talking about the bypass when Dan was nice enough to show up under public input and provide information and written materials. But I think we need to probably be careful with answering 150 questions that we know are out there, because it's a great topic. It means we're growing. It means we need more roads, and we're going to really lean on KDOT because I think they're in that business to figure out where it's going to go. But there is a process going on, and I think we need to recognize Dan's efforts for coming in here and saying that he's bringing people together and talking. But we are talking to one person today, and we've been talking for 25 minutes.
But Darren, it's not personal about people's houses only, not even a small part of it. It's personal to them about their businesses too,
Yeah,
and
I
in this
understand.
town. And if we're gonna be a chamber and a city council that cares, like we've been talking about tonight, about all of these businesses, giving them money to start and helping sustain them and all that kind of stuff, that's what a lot of them care about.
But to Darren's point, there is an agenda, and that's what we're trying to follow, so.
Yeah, I
We've
understand.
kind of asked and answered this
Yeah.
quite a bit.
And I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
One
So,
more thing before we shut Dan down. I think
This is on TV.
I would like to see your group, Highway 69, come together with one voice, and I think the city ought to do that. I think the city ought to be part of this, that Arma, Frontenac, Girard, Crawford County, and Cherokee County. And to do that, I think we need to be a one voice and let KDOT know how we feel on what our preference might be. So I would make a motion to rescind a decision that was made 20-plus years ago with the Western Route. And let KDOT know that, you know, we're all wanting something done, and we think the best option is to,
We're not even at that point though, Chuck.
well,
I mean,
I'm just trying to.
I
bring us
agree, but,
together.
and it's
moot.
it's a moot point at this point. I mean, KDOT has relaunched all these upcoming meetings. Nothing we can do, no action we can take tonight is going to negate anything that's coming in the coming, however many there are,
But-
6 or 8 or whatever.
I'd like to second that because we are the only one who will not do that and come together with these other cities. Why? Why do we have to be the odd man out? Why can't we play with them and talk with them and get together? I
Well,
don't
think
understand that.
That's an honorable thing, but we don't have the information necessary. to-
Oh, now, that's what you guys said the last time. There's all kinds of information out there. It's a matter of whether you want to look at
No,
it.
there's not a lot,
No.
not on the new project. There's a lot from the old project, but nothing about the bypass, extending the bypass we have right now.
There is no.
And we don't
there
know
is
that
no
that's what they
information.
wanna do.
They've said before, in the last meetings, many months ago, many weeks ago, that they would have to do another study on the existing bypass. With all due respect to Dan and his group, this is not gonna be the study that they base their information
No,
off of.
he didn't say that it was going to be.
No,
No,
but
but
that's
that's what
gonna be
you're
the
asking
best
to do.
information you probably get.
Right.
But they said they would do a study on existing bypass, and now that option's off the table, or?
I think
I assume they're
to
doing it.
Darren's point,
Yeah.
we need to be respectful of our community, and this wasn't on the agenda. So I think we need to end this, we need to.
But this
I
is
call-
non-agenda reports and requests.
But-
This is just a follow-up to,
But we typically don't engage with public comment.
we do whatever we want to. It
Well, I
depends
would-
on who's talking.
I would call the question. There's a motion on the table, I call the question.
Okay, there is a motion, a second, to rescind the decision that was made 20 years ago. I think, let's
You are
vote on it.
correct. All right, there is a motion and second to rescind the 20-plus year agreement or letter. All those in favor
Did
of
we do a
rescinding
roll
that?
call?
Yeah, all those in favor of rescinding that? Roll call?
Brooks?
Yes.
Height?
No.
McNay?
No.
Munsell?
Yes.
Seeley?
No.
Motion failed. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Non-agenda reports. All right, so, moving Pittsburgh Positive up, I wanted to recognize Joe Leake, as this Times, Pittsburgh Positive for his recent work. Multiple, asks of area donors and citizens, to help get the Four Oaks Municipal Miniature Golf Course, funded. And it's complete. We're getting ready to have a ribbon cutting on that coming up. It'll be open very soon. And I think Joe needs to be commended for all the efforts. You know, in addition, the donors as well, but Joe really went out and did the heavy lifting on this, and I really appreciate that, and I think, I hope everyone will agree with me. He is always doing things, for the betterment of Pittsburgh and in a positive attitude, so. We'll get him in next meeting and recognize him officially for that, so. All right, executive session. Item A, an executive session is necessary to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel pursuant to KSA 75-4319, subsection B, subsection 1, to discuss the city manager's staff. Motion to recess into executive session for 10 minutes to discuss the city manager's staff pursuant to the non-elected personnel exemption, or exception, excuse me, under KSA 75-4319, subsection B, subsection 1, with the meeting to resume in the commission room in 10 minutes. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to go into, to move into executive session. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. We are in executive session. Okay, we're back from executive session. No decisions were made, no binding actions taken, no votes or actions taken. So I would offer or have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. We are adjourned.